Welcome back to All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. We just wrapped up week 2 of the preseason versus the Lions, and a couple wide receivers might be running out of chances. Steve, give us the rundown.
You're listening to All Chiefed Up.
Joe Summers at KC Kingdom says Kadarius Toney seals his fate with disastrous preseason week 2 performance. Taking on the Lions, Toney came in after Patrick Mahomes had already finished his day. He promptly committed 2 different penalties on his first play, a brutal start to what's been an underwhelming summer for the former first-round pick. With Justin Ross firmly moving ahead Toney on the depth chart throughout training camp, players like Sky Moore and Nikko Remigio in the mix as well, it appears Toney's days as a Chief are nearing their conclusion. Joe Summers also writes, Chiefs fan favorite suddenly a cut candidate after concerning preseason week 2. Nikko Remigio had long looked like a serious contender to steal a roster spot, though his preseason efforts may now have cost him that position. After muffing a punt and getting the ball ripped out of his hands on a catch that should have resulted in a Jaguars touchdown, if not for a botched referee call in week 1, Remigio was an afterthought in week 2 against the Lions on Saturday. He did not receive a single offensive snap in the first half, while fellow wide receivers Sky Moore and Justin Ross received plenty of looks with the first-team offense. Remigio eventually saved his day with an excellent punt return, but the damage may have already been done. With Remigio and Toney on thin ice, Richard Lewis writes the perfect Chiefs wide receiver upgrade rumored to be available, Jahan Dotson may be on the trade block. When speaking with reporters this week, head coach Dan Quinn said the Commanders were in the thick of their wide receiver 2 search. He named multiple players who will be getting looks, including Dotson. To add fuel to the fire, Dotson added he wasn't surprised by his coach's comments in a piece written by Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. DQ didn't draft me. Each and every year in your profession, you got to prove yourself. You got to prove what you're worth and what you're capable of doing. That's what I'm trying to do. With the regular season less than a month away, this doesn't bode well for Dotson. The former Penn State product is playing under a new coaching staff and may be falling out of order with them quickly. The Commanders clearly like their wide receiver room, which means that Dotson could be available. The 24-year-old is a smooth route runner who owns strong hands and has a good catch radius. Through his first 2 seasons with the Commanders, Dotson has recorded 84 receptions on 144 targets for 1,041 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. So, Mike, what do you think is the state of the Chiefs wide receiver room after week 2 of the preseason?
Kadarius Toney's definitely in trouble. I think everybody could see that, Steve. He didn't play a snap with the first team. I don't think he played any with Carson Wentz. He was basically playing with Oladokin and Ian Book. If you're relegated to playing with Ian Book, and that is the way you're going to have to make plays to get on this team, you are in flat-out trouble, Steve. They didn't use him on the kick return. They haven't used him on the punt return. They haven't used him on any special teams. Because why? The dude cannot stay healthy. Andy's already called this out. Matt Nagy's called it out. Toney is officially so far down the depth chart at this point, I think Cornell Powell has passed him.
Yeah, so from the outside looking in, Mike, it looks like Kadarius Toney isn't getting a lot of opportunities in the preseason. And we talked about that the other day when we were live streaming the game. But the problem is, Kadarius Toney put himself in this situation by not caring enough about football, by not putting in the work, by not being consistent. Mike, we've said from the beginning, this guy has all the tools in the world. He could be a phenomenal athlete. He could be a phenomenal wide receiver in the NFL. But he's never had the passion to do it, and I think it's got him to where he is right now in a contract year, but barely if making a team.
Yeah, usually in the contract year, players are undefeated. But I think Kadarius Toney's going to take an L to the contract year. This is going to be the first in history this is going to happen, Steve, because you said it. He don't have passion. He's not staying healthy, and these are the things we said that is going to cause him to be on the hot seat. I think he's firmly there. It would not surprise me if we have 2 different outcomes. Number 1, Andy and them decide to take him anyway because they still can't get over the fact that Brett Veach traded for him, and they still see an uptick in what he can do and how he can produce in this league. I totally understand that, and if Andy does it, it wouldn't surprise me. Another scenario, I could see them trading Kadarius Toney to somebody for some random pick. Who knows what he's going to get offered, but he could be somewhere else by week 1, week 2 of the season.
Well, my question about the whole thing is, Mike, if Kadarius Toney can't function properly in an Andy Reid offense where he should be able to shine, he's had all the chances in the world, he has the best quarterback to ever play football, where is he going to do good at, and will he go anywhere else? If he doesn't cut it here, do you think his career's about shot?
I think his career's shot right now. If he does not come out and raise hell for the next 2 weeks of the preseason, in practices, in the third preseason game versus the Bears, he's got to go out and he's got to make something happen. And how do you do it? You've got to get in with the first team. And guess what? The first team's not even going to play versus the Bears. He's not even going to get a chance to be out there with Mahomes in a game situation anymore. He's already squandered that opportunity. He's probably squandered his entire career in Kansas City. And look, he has nobody to blame but himself. There's another guy, though, that we were talking about, Steve, and that's Nikko Remigio. Fans have been all over Nikko. He's been a camp staple for 2 straight years. He hurt himself last year. We thought he was good. I said last year he was a dark horse to make the team. He gets injured, and this year he started off hot. But, dude, last week he struggled. He struggled big time. And then this week, Andy pulled him completely out of the first team. He didn't run anything with the first team. I don't even think he played in the first half. And then the only 2 plays he ran was some little jet sweep, kind of like little catches behind the line of scrimmage. Nothing crazy. The only thing that saved his entire night was the 43-yard kickoff return.
Yeah, Mike, people were excited about Nikko Remigio making this team last year. Of course, he was injured, and then they got re-horned up this year about Nikko Remigio. There are so many people down in our comments saying, hey, this guy has to be on the 53-man roster. A lot of people want to see him get a shot over Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, you name it. They want to see Nikko up there. The problem is he's not producing. And even if he does flash, Mike, could it just be another Amir Smith-Marset situation to where, hey, this guy's been good in preseason, but he ain't going to cut it in the regular season, so we're either going to trade him or put him on the practice squad.
Right. Even when he was playing well, he wasn't doing it in the preseason versus the ones. This guy was doing it in the second half. Look, Justin Ross has came on. I honestly think he's had a better camp this year than last year. He's looked good in the games. He's caught the 50-50 balls. He has made himself known that, hey, I'm a different type wide receiver. To me, Justin Ross has made his case to be on. A lot of people don't like it, but Sky Moore is probably wide receiver 5 right after Justin Watson. And if you want to put Justin Ross right there with him as 5A and 5B, fine and dandy, but that still leaves 6. And so the 7th spot is going to be between McCole Hardman, who we're not too thrilled over. You got Kadarius Toney, Nikko. That's your 3. Who is going to get on the team there? I don't think Cornell Powell. I do not think that one catch is going to be enough to push him to the roster. I don't see it. I don't think Ronchar Washington's done enough to be pushed up. So I think it's a 3-horse race there for that number 7 spot, Steve. And right now, I would firmly give it to Nikko. I think Nikko is a better upside guy at this point in his career than McCole Hardman. And honestly, I'm done with the Kadarius Toney experiment. I would go with Nikko as my number 7 and pair him with Ross, pair him with Sky Moore, the top 3, and Justin Watson.
Yeah, so in our last video, we talked about a trade possibility or someone signing someone. We brought up Hunter Renfrow. Now we have this guy talking about Jahan Dotson maybe on the trade block. This is a guy that you liked coming out of the draft a few years ago. He's a good, solid receiver, a good possession receiver. He's also short and quick, and that's what Andy Reid likes. So do you think he's a good fit with the Chiefs? And if so, do you think they would even look at doing that and adding to this wide receiver room? Or do you think they already have it kind of set the way they want it, and whoever falls out, falls out?
Right. Look, Jahan Dotson, Dan Quinn did not draft Jahan Dotson. I understand it. He said that. He is a guy, in my opinion, that when he came out, I thought Brett Veach would be interested in him. I thought he does things that would fit our offense. But at the same time, he's 5'11", 182. He's the same exact size as all the stereotypical receivers that the Chiefs keep getting. So we've already got a Xavier Worthy-esque. We've already got Hollywood. You've already got Nikko. You've already got Sky Moore. He's the same type of wide receiver. Last year, he wasn't great. He was serviceable. He had 49 catches for 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also brought 4 drops over. Okay? And we don't need any more drops. People already say Sky Moore can't catch the ball. He had 1. Kadarius Toney had 4 last year, and people were all over him. Do we want to bring over another wide receiver that had 4 drops? I just don't think there's any room for him at this point. What are you going to have to give up to get a Jahan Dotson? If they cut him, maybe you can throw something at him and bring him in. But at that point, I think you're going to have to compete with a few other teams. So I don't really think we're going to waste our time with it. I think it's too late in the game. I think if the Chiefs make any moves here after surprising camp cuts, it's going to be for a running back or it's going to be for an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Probably defensive end more than anything.
Yeah, I think we have enough receivers that are that middle of the road that are either going to make the squad at the very bottom or be on the practice squad. I think Jahan Dotson would fall right into that mix in this group. I don't think the Chiefs are going to mess with the wide receiver room at all, or definitely not bring someone from the outside in unless they really move the needle, Mike. Otherwise, It's going to stay the same. I think they have a good idea of what they want to do.
Well, I think that's why we don't love McCole Hardman right now, is because he does not move that needle. He don't get you fired up. Jahan Dotson, probably on this wide receiver group and in this room, he would probably be wide receiver 4. I'd probably put him above Justin Watson. But to be honest, Watson's developed so much chemistry with Mahomes and the trust with Mahomes and the coaching staff that I don't think he would be wide receiver 4. So Watson would keep that, and Jahan Dotson would now slide firmly above Sky Moore. And I do think he is better than Sky Moore, obviously. Jahan Dotson has had a better career to this point. He would be an upgrade there. So yes, he would raise your floor, but what are you going to give up to get him? If it's something very cheap, I would not be opposed to it. I like Jahan Dotson as a football player. I also like Parker Washington. They come out of the same Penn State roster and the same team. That's the kind of receivers that I think the Chiefs like to go for. It wouldn't surprise me if Brett Veach kicks the tires on this.
Real quick, you got to pick one. Trade for Jahan Dotson, say a 3rd-round pick, or go out and sign Hunter Renfrow at a league minimum and have him on the squad.
100%. I would rather have Hunter Renfrow any day. Problem is, I don't think Hunter Renfrow wants to come back and play football.
Hey ye! It's time for Beyond the Kingdom.
Hey ye! It's time for Beyond the Kingdom, where we go around the league and pull in the news and talk about it as Kansas City Chiefs fans and have a little fun. Mike, this first one makes me very, very happy. Antonio Pierce, on the decision of making Gardner Minshew the QB1 for the Raiders, he says, we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to get off to a fast start, and that's what we're going with. Mike, what do you think about the Raiders having to pick first between Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and then selecting the mustache?
Right. Look, I think they made the right decision. I think Gardner Minshew, we had Minshew Mania a few years ago, Steve. We're just a few years removed from Minshew Mania, okay? And so I will take him. I think that's good, but I don't think it threatens the Chiefs in the long term as being a player to win this division. I just don't see either of those quarterbacks being able to push Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So honestly, it's a moot point. I don't care who they pick.
Right. That's what I was going to say, but I have the perfect nickname for this guy. I don't know how. No one's ever called him Fu Man Minshew before, but they need to start now.
I love it.
Mike, the Minnesota Vikings have had a bunch of terrible luck this offseason after losing tragically their rookie cornerback. It looks like they went out to try to fill the void just a bit as they've signed free agent cornerback Stephon Gilmore for a 1-year, $10 million deal. Mike, do you like this move for the Vikings? I think it was a must.
I think Stephon Gilmore got paid a lot more than I would have paid him. So I think he won this one. I think it's kind of a win-win, like you said. I think he's going to do good things for the Vikings. But look, they also just lost J.J. McCarthy, their number 1 pick for the entire year. Maybe they're looking to say, hey, we're going to have to load up the defense, and we've got to get stouter there. We've got to allow less points if we're going to win games and be in this playoff race. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. We talk about moving the needle all the time. Stephon Gilmore was pretty good last year with Dallas, but I don't know if a defender and a corner of his age is going to be able to move the needle for the Minnesota Vikings to playoff push. I just don't see it.
And a favorite pain in the ass on the channel here, Mike. Bills wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling suffered a neck sprain in Saturday's game versus the Steelers. What do you think about him spraining that big old neck, Michael?
Dude, I don't like it, to be honest. Like, we joke about MVS, but it was kind of serious. I think they took him out on a stretcher or something. I think it was pretty serious. Like, they thought it was going to be crazy. The good thing is, I think he's going to recover fully from it. He's not going to miss too much. But, Steve, he was in jeopardy of getting cut from the Bills anyways. The Bills tried to overhaul that wide receiver room.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess it could have been worse. He could have, like, broke his hand instead. I wish him the best of luck. And to be honest, if he gets cut and the Chiefs offer him anything, Steve, are you going to be kind of happy if the Chiefs re-sign him?
No, man. I'm really glad that it's nothing serious with his injury, for real, and on a very serious note. But also on a very serious note, hail to the gnaw. We don't want him back in Kansas City. Mike, the Falcons have released veteran wide receiver James Washington. This is somebody that people had talked about the Chiefs kicking the tires on a couple years back. What do you think about it now? We've been talking about receivers all day.
Right. He didn't do much with the Colts when he signed. Then he had a short stint here in New Orleans. He didn't do much. And now they've cut him. I just don't know what his problem is. But in Pittsburgh, he played pretty well at times. He's a big-bodied wide receiver. Honestly, though, I'm just going to stick with Justin Ross. If we don't use that style anyway, and if we're going to start, let's just stay with what we got. Let's see what Justin Ross can do. Let's not go out and muddy the room anymore with another big-body wide receiver that Andy probably is not going to use properly.
100% agree with that. And I think Justin Ross showed out pretty well in the preseason. His buddy Carson Wentz has been giving him all the opportunities in the world. And Justin Ross looks like a real receiver that could be in this league. So I like that.
That time's yours.
Time's yours, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's jump right in. On the last video, we talked about Hunter Renfrow, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Jamal Agnew being a Hollywood Brown replacement during his injury. And you guys sounded off on it. Let's get right into it. Username comes in and says, can't lie. These Chiefs have done an exceptional job at what they've built here. Signed, a salty Niners fan.
Hey, I'll take it. Respect.
Respect.
At least he's giving credit where credit's due. People see this team in the preseason, Mike. They see how Xavier Worthy's looking so far. They see people like Jared Wiley. They see pieces like Kingsley Suamataia. And hey, the Chiefs have built something respectable here. So shout out Salty 49ers fan.
Shout out Brett Veach for finding all these beautiful picks here in this last draft we have. Optimus Lime said it was a great game. A lot of players stood out. Steve, who stood out for you versus the Lions on Saturday?
That username stands out for me.
Oh, yeah.
Check mark. Kudos to you. But also, I think Carson still has the fan base a little horned up, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
He's looking good still. He showed that he can perform good at special teams just as much as he can at running back. I think people were a little happy to see Nico and even Sky get some good returns. Who's not standing out, though? Mr. Kadarius Toney. You got to do something, brother.
Right. Hey, a little horned up over Jaden Hicks. That's back-to-back performances by that defender. Felix struggled a little bit in this game compared to the first game. I think people are kind of iffy on Felix, but we'll get on. We'll talk about that on a different day. Alexander Gonzalez says, I love your videos, guys. Keep up the grind. Thanks for the gas, Alexander. Stephen Bill, who's been a member of the ACU crew for a while. Shout out, Stephen. The big question is, how many running backs are we going to keep on the 53? 3 or 4?
Mike, we could talk about this for an hour. We've talked about it a lot over the last few weeks. And that is a good question. We don't really know what they're going to do. They tend to like to take 4 for injury purposes. You also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's suffering with PTSD and some other sicknesses, whatever it might be. But he's missing a lot of time. So it's hard to put a lot of trust in him. You got Pacheco, who runs hard, already had a shoulder surgery. You never know when something might come up. Someone like Carson Steele is going to have to step up and do a good job. And then you probably want another guy back there, at least Deneric Prince. A lot of people say Louis Reese-Zammit should make the roster. I don't see that one happening. I think they end up going with 4 ultimately.
Yeah, I think Keontae Ingram and Amani Bailey are the 2 that's probably on the outs right now. LRZ, guys, he's probably going to be on the practice squad. He's said it time and time again that he has to learn this game, and he knows he's behind the 8 ball big time. It would surprise me beyond belief. It would surprise me more if LRZ made the team over Kadarius Toney at this point.
Right.
In just my humble opinion, I think LRZ is going to the practice squad, Steve, and I think they're going to keep 4. A lot of people wasn't impressed by Deneric Prince's big run the other day because they said, well, he carried the ball 6 other times, and he only got 6 yards. He's not flashed. He doesn't do this. He's too slow. It was perfectly blocked. They actually come out with that.
You're supposed to get 40 yards per carry, Mike, obviously.
Right. It's insane. But I think Deneric Prince is still probably the 3. I don't think they're going to cut Clyde because of his PTSD or any of his sickness issues. I think they're very content with Clyde knowing the offense and being a contributor. So I think they're going to keep 4 around. I think it's going to be Pacheco. It's going to be Clyde. It's going to be Carson Steele. It's going to be Deneric Prince. And if they cut one, right now it's looking like Deneric Prince may see the practice squad. Next one up, Steve, we got Dwayne Terry. He says,
And after all of that, they lost another game. How ridiculous. I'm a big Chiefs fan, 100%. But that's another loss on KC. Let's get it together, KC.
Steve, Dwayne doesn't know what a preseason is.
Hey, Dwayne, look at me. There ain't nobody in the damn league trying to win a preseason game. No one gives a rat's ass about the preseason. It is practice. If they were trying to win the game, do you think Patrick Mahomes would only play 2 drives? Think about that for a second, and then reevaluate, and then go delete your comment. Delete that shit.
Delete it. Last one of the day, user XB1. Too bad the Chiefs lost 2 pregame. So sad, not glad they lost. Let other teams win. The Chiefs are too cocky.
What the hell's happening here?
I don't know what's happening.
Mike, the Chiefs have sucked so bad in the preseason.
Who calls the Chiefs the Chiefs? I flat out hate it.
A chooch?
Too bad the Chiefs lost 2 pregame. So sad. Let other teams win. Why the Chiefs too cocky? Shut up. Shut the hell up. I have nothing else to say to you. Just shut the hell up.
Before we make like a tree and leaf, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, BetUS. We've partnered with BetUS this season to bring you the greatest book on the planet. BetUS is currently offering 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. That's right. Not only do they have the fastest payouts in the industry, but they also have the fastest and easiest withdrawal process to get those winnings back to you ASAP. Not to mention, if you lose, it's not a big deal. You get a 10% back on net losses twice a year. So don't be a freaking slapnut. Go to the pinned comment, click the link, go to the description, click the comment, click the link, click the comment, click the description, click the link, go to the pinned comment, go to the description, click the link, sign up for BetUS today, and let's have some fun this football season. Also, thanks for liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell. We'll catch you next time. Go Chiefs.